Warning, warning, warning. The zombie apocalypse has arrived.
Harry Potter had always thought he'd seen it all. Voldemort, Death Eaters, the Battle of Hogwarts. But nothing could prepare him for the news that hit the wizarding world like a thunderclap. A zombie apocalypse had begun. The Ministry of Magic was in chaos. Owls were delivering panicked messages, and even Dumbledore's portrait looked grim. Harry didn't have time to waste. Grabbing his enchanted motorcycle, the same one he'd flown years ago with Hagrid, he set out to find answers and hopefully survivors. The journey was far from easy. As Harry raced through the forest, the once familiar trees now seemed ominous, their shadows stretching like claws. The muddy ground, slick from recent rains, made the ride treacherous. Suddenly, his bike skidded. Losing control, Harry was thrown off, landing hard on the forest floor. Dazed, he barely had time to register the groans and snarls around him. His heart sank as he turned to see a group of zombies stumbling toward him, their lifeless eyes fixed on their prey. Acting on instinct, Harry scrambled to his feet, grabbed his bike, and kick-started it just in time to escape the outstretched hands of the undead. He didn't look back, weaving through the trees as the groans grew fainter behind him. But his relief was short-lived. As he approached the city, the devastation became apparent. Buildings were reduced to rubble, fires burned uncontrolled, and the streets were filled with wandering zombies. The once bustling heart of the Muggle world now looked like a scene out of a nightmare. Harry kept moving, dodging overturned cars and debris. But the zombies noticed him. At first, just a few turned their heads, but soon a swarm was following him. Their relentless pursuit forced him to abandon his bike, which had run low on fuel anyway. Harry sprinted toward the nearest building, an old convenience store that somehow still stood intact. He barricaded the doors with shelves and collapsed against the counter, catching his breath. Inside the store, it was eerily quiet. Harry took a moment to assess his surroundings. The shelves were mostly empty, looted by desperate survivors, but he managed to find a few cans of food and a bottle of water. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself to eat. The taste of cold beans was far from satisfying, but it gave him the energy to press on. Harry knew he couldn't stay there forever. The groans outside were growing louder. The zombies had caught his scent. As he stepped outside, wand in hand, Harry used every ounce of stealth he had learned during his adventures. He moved carefully, avoiding broken glass and making his way through narrow alleys. But no matter how quiet he tried to be, the zombies were everywhere. The city felt alive in the worst possible way, a place where death walked openly. Harry turned a corner and froze. A lone zombie stood directly in his path. Its head jerked toward him, and before Harry could react, it lunged. The attack was fast and brutal. Harry managed to blast it back with a stupefy spell, but not before its rotting teeth sank into his arm. He screamed in pain, stumbling back and clutching the wound. A deep sense of dread filled him as he realized what this meant. He staggered down the street, the world around him spinning. His strength began to fade, and his thoughts became harder to focus. Harry knew he was transforming. The bite mark burned, and an icy sensation spread through his veins. His wand fell from his hand, clattering to the ground. Memories of his friends, his battles, and the life he had fought so hard to protect flashed before his eyes, but the infection was unstoppable. Harry's vision darkened, his breathing slowed, and his body stiffened. His scar, the symbol of his survival and triumph, now throbbed for the last time. As the transformation completed, Harry's eyes glazed over. He no longer felt fear or pain, only an insatiable hunger. The boy who lived was no more. Now, he was just another zombie, lost to the apocalypse he had tried to escape.